Welcome to the Business and Banter Podcast, where we talk a lot about business, a little bit of banter, maybe some BS, but most importantly, we're going to try add some value to your day. We're very excited to be back. We've had a little break. We've not been putting out as many episodes as we wish. We had a couple of rough weeks. Sam's been away on business. I've been concussed. But we're back now, and we're going to be putting them out more frequently.
On a weekly cycle. And I really just wanted to say thank you for everyone for hanging out and waiting for us to be able to drop more episodes.
And if this is your first time listening, my name is Hunley. I'm a car part reseller from Scotland. And my esteemed banter buddy is Sam from Australia.
Hi. Thanks for joining.
We've put out 2 episodes. We also had the podcast with Taken Sports. And I think the thing that most people commented on, which is the same as what I felt when I first met you, is just in awe of your business and what a badass you are and how are you even doing this. So today we're going to delve into a bit more questions, and Sam's going to tell us all about her business. She's going to divulge all the secrets. She's going to tell us all how to do 60 a day. And on a personal level, I love this because we're currently in a competition. So now she has to tell me everything.
No, not a chance. I'm going to hold back, and on the 1st of January, I'll share all the secret sauce because I won't give you a leg up.
You can't hold back from our listeners. In show business, you have to leave it all on the table.
I will. That's fine. I'll just make you know why I'm going to win.
I also got some questions from Instagram, so we're going to be grilling Sam. And if you guys have any more questions, you can just put it in the chat, in the comments, and then we can always just do some Q&As on some of the other episodes as well. But I think the thing that most people picked up on, Sam, was that you are very remote. Like where you live in Australia, you're very remote, and yet somehow you're still able to have the biggest successful business, where I think a lot of us face the problem of location, especially when it comes to sourcing. And what most people wanted to know is, how did you come up with what creative ways did you have to use to do sourcing? And if you maybe want to give some of the other people an idea of exactly how remote you are.
Yeah, so I live in the centre of Australia, so in the Aussie outback, basically. So to put some statistics on everything, Australia is about the size of the US, but the population's about the size of California. And Australia being so large, most of the population, actually 90% of it, resides on the eastern coast of Australia. So in my little town, there's only 22,000 people that actually live here. So the average football stadium in Australia is 100,000 people, so we wouldn't even be able to pack out a football stadium. That's how small we are. So my town, there's kind of 2 op shops and a tip shop, but the tip shop doesn't do any clothes. So if there's going to be anywhere that clothing is going to be available for purchase, apart from garage sales, they're all just getting donated to 2 places. So a benefit of being in a remote spot is that people can't just go somewhere else to donate them. You don't have to play the guessing game. If there's going to be something good, it's going to be in one of those 2 places. So while it seems like a limitation, I actually think it's one of the biggest blessings that I have, because I don't really have to travel. I just go to 2 places. I guess the best thing that I've found in terms of being able to obtain good stock regularly is that I go every day I try not to go on Fridays, to be honest. So I go Monday to Thursday, and I signed up as a volunteer for one of the op shops. So I actually go out the back and I sort their raw donations for them. And I like to think that I get all the profitable things for my business before they actually hit the floor. So if there was anything that was going to be sellable, I'm touching it before it goes through. Which has been really beneficial, but also it helps them, because being so small, there's also a big number of position vacancies in the town, because when I first moved here, the town's population was about 30,000, so it's actually decreasing in size. And being someone that likes to be inherently helpful as well, I try and do anything I can while I'm in the other op shop to make their lives a little bit easier, so that that relationship's a little bit stronger. So I will go through, flip the racks, and if there's any hangers that aren't there, that are there without clothes on them. I'll put them in the basket and then I'll take them up front. Those sorts of things. So the best thing for me is the relationship.
So you currently list 60 a day. And just for people, like the other day we were having a call in the Reseller Greatness group, and Debbie pointed out to me, because I didn't know this, Australia is area-wise a lot bigger than the UK, but you actually have less people that live in Australia. So your amount of donations and amount of customers is actually less than we have in the UK, because we often have a very like scarcity mentality in the UK, because we see the US quite a lot, and that seems to be the land of plenty. It's in abundance. You see their thrifts and their bins, and it's huge, and it's like it's massive. We don't have this here, but yours is actually smaller than ours.
I don't think that there's any town, place, region that people don't have a consumeristic type of personality. Like people buy and then they seemingly donate just so that they can feel like that item's going to someone else to be helpful, so that they don't feel bad about their consumerism.
And so what does it look like? Another question we got is, what does your day look like? What does a day at 60 a day, an average day, your normal day, how do you do 60 a day?
I like this question because it allows me the ability to put a little bit of perspective on, because I've answered it before within the tech and sports group. So I wake up at 5 and I jump on the treadmill and I do my wake up eBay. And most people are like, oh, you work from 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. because I do that. And I don't think that that's a bad thing, because on the treadmill, what else am I going to do? Like, am I going to watch Netflix? Am I going to scroll on Instagram? Yeah, so that's what I like to do. I find it adds value to my day rather than subtracting away from my day.
What is waking up eBay?
Pardon?
What is waking up eBay? What is because I have my own store wake up that I do every morning, but what's in your routine?
So when I wake up eBay, I in the coupon from the day before, I start the coupon from the day, start a new coupon. I do my buyer groups. I send out a newsletter. Well, the 4 newsletters that I am able to send out. I then do my postage labels, so that I can pick and pack after I've had breakfast and all those sorts of things. And I also message every buyer that's left positive feedback from the day before. And the reason why I do that is I say, like, thank you so much for shopping in store. Please like and subscribe and follow the store, so that way they actually get the newsletters and they actually receive the coupons that I send them. And I give them a private coupon in the message and encourage them to shop back in store.
That is such a game changer, because I recently started focusing on my communication a lot more with buyers. Before, I wasn't really paying attention to all the opportunities we have on eBay to speak, but especially in my category, car parts, I was struggling a lot with people buying the wrong parts and then not realizing it. So I've actually signed up to a third party that automatically now messages my customers. As soon as they buy a part, it'll message them, say, thank you so much. This will get shipped out by 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. But also, are you sure this is the right part? Do you need help to check if it's the right part? Send me your registration and I can help you. And I get so many responses from that. And then I'm also able to catch wrong items before I ship them out, because people will message me and be like, this is my car. And I'll be like, well, you just bought a Volvo part and you haven't paid. So I'm not sure. But so I'm able to, I have a lot more cancellations, but I'd rather have a cancellation than a return, right?
Of course.
But using that opportunity, like, I think eBay gives us the opportunity to communicate and we just don't use it because we see it as a burden. I oftentimes, as soon as I see a message come into my inbox, I'll be like, oh, what's the problem now? What do they want now? Like, and I've had to change that mentality. And I've also, like, it now automatically, as soon as the item shipped, it tells them your item has been shipped. Here's your tracking. It has their name on it, like it's personalized. I've shipped the item. If you have any issues, message me. if anything's wrong, message me, because I want them to come to me first. So I've
Yeah, yeah.
realized that when I went onto eBay and I had an issue with an item, the way it's set up is if you click there's something wrong or I have an issue, contact the seller, it asks you
Mhm.
why. And you'll be like, I got the wrong item or this doesn't work. And it takes you to open a return instead of
Oh,
taking you to the seller's inbox. And that frustrates me so much. And so
yeah,
having the messages go out to them means that they don't have to go through contact seller. They can just go to their inbox because I've already been speaking to them. And then that way I'm able to deal with issues before it necessarily goes to my return process. And I've actually reduced my returns by a lot as well.
and your INADs as well, I imagine.
A lot, because you can also
Mhm.
kind of guide people into opening
Mm.
certain returns a bit. So I get, unfortunately, I was struggling with getting a lot of wrong item sent returns, but it's
Yeah,
not that I sent the wrong item, it's that it's a wrong item for their car, but the
yeah,
wording on eBay doesn't make it clear. So I'm
yeah,
able
of
to like
course.
redirect a lot of those into the doesn't fit returns, which helps a lot. But
That's really clever. So the rest of my day, so I do the wake up eBay on the treadmill, then I have breakfast, and get ready just for the day, like personal
yeah,
stuff. Then I go to the shed and I pick and pack parcels, and then I like to drop them at about 9 because I like to hit the op shop at 9, and I like to be finished there at 1. And then I'm home. I have lunch. I usually do my numbers, like my day to day numbers in my diary, just to track how my business is progressing. I like to monitor like the metrics and stuff, just to make sure that I am as profitable as I believe I am. And then from there, I usually have lunch, and then I will jump in and do photos, and then I'll do my listings, and then I'm usually done around 4 or 5.
but 60 a day from
Mhm.
two charity shops and a tip shop, sure, like you don't get all your stuff from there. You've had to come up with other ways to source as well.
Well, if I'm
Tell us
just
where you
doing
get your
60 a
stuff
day,
from, Sam.
if I'm just doing 60 a day, I can get them from in town. But as you're very happy and very inspired to hear, I'm sure, I'm upping my listing goal because of the competition that we're in, which I know is just going to fill your heart with joy. And I don't think that I can meet my metric on items in the town increasing that much. It's only 15 a day, but it's quite a lot, and I would have to kind of open my spigot a little bit more, and I don't want to lose my average profit per item. So I am going interstate. That's what the business trip was for. So I'm going down south to then freight them back. And I found an overnight freight service, Hanley, which I'm sure you're even more thrilled about. Um, so I won't. There will be no delay. So pretty much, I'll board the plane and it'll go on the bus and come up. And I have open access to Australia Post mail containers through the freight service. I can fit about 1,000 items in there for $340. So it's only going to cost me cents to ship them back. So I may actually be able to increase above that.
What changes would you have to make to go from 60 to 75 a day? Like in your day to day that you just gave us, how much of a difference does 15 a day make?
Well, because I'm going away, and I would be going away from a Thursday to Sunday to be able to get those items to then bring them back, I would actually have to do over 75 in a day. I'd have to do up to 80 in a day. And that's to build up the draft bank to be able to keep going away. And fortnightly on a Sunday, I run a market stall for other clothes, which are cool stuff that just usually isn't branded. So I sell that locally in town. And so I actually have to be kind of hitting around that 82 a day. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm probably going to have to wake up a little bit earlier, because I want to be able to get most of my photos done before I hit the op shops. And that'll be the difference. So that I come home and I do the listings, and then I do more photos, to then wake up the next day, finish the photos, do all the stuff I need to do, then list. So I'll just need to add about probably half an hour to the start of the day.
And so one of the questions we got of Instagram, which kind of leads into this, is how much does speed of process matter? Like they obviously, and I think this was Olma, but she was saying that she's quite slow, and how much focus and how much does the speed of the process actually matter?
I think it depends on the size that you're at. So for me, 1 minute across 85 items, just for round numbers, is nearly an hour and a half every day. So that would be the difference between finishing at 5 and 6:30. So when you're small, I don't think speed matters. I think accuracy matters. But the bigger you get, you need to get faster, because if not, your day will continue to drag out. And everyone's processing is different because it depends on your setup and stuff like that. But you need to be able to look at ways that you can reduce time, and maybe you need to front load your research so that you don't have to spend the time researching to be able to list the item at the end. Or maybe that it needs a second pair of eyes to look at how you're manually processing things so that you're not double handling or anything like that. But that's just some of the ideas.
How long does it take you to do the actual listing part of 60 a day?
So it's about 4 hours, 2 hours photo, 2 hours listing.
4 hours to do 60 a day.
Yeah.
What's the biggest time suck in your business at the minute?
Pants and jeans.
Oh.
Because there's extra photos, extra measurements, and we run on centimeters in Australia. But obviously the inseam and stuff like that is inches. So I have to then calculate it.
Accuracy or speed?
Accuracy. Every time.
Do you think that, I find that repetition is really, like, would you start slow and accurate, and just by doing the same thing over and over and over, you'll get faster naturally? Or should you focus on trying to get faster?
I think in the beginning you need to focus on being accurate, because if not, you will end up having a lot of INADs, or item not as described, returns. And there was once upon a time I went above the peer rating on the service metrics for item not as described. And say the peer rating was 0.25, I was like 0.27. I wasn't in the high, none of that. And my sales dropped by 50%. So it's very hard to come out of that as well, because it's a time thing. So I don't recommend anyone ends up in there. You have to be able to be accurate first.
I want to go back to what you said about when you're in the charity shops, and how you try to leave it better than you found it. Like when you're building the relationships, it's not, because I think a lot of the times we look at sourcing as a take thing. Like, we need to find this, we need to take this, we need to. And something that I found really helpful in my sourcing as well is realizing that sourcing is a give and take. Like, I need this, but I identify a problem that they have that I can solve that gives me what I need. And that's very similar to like what you're saying, where you'll go in and help them sort out the clothes in the back because they need volunteers. So they get help, you still get what you want. And I think if you have that kind of relationship, that's the lasting relationships, instead of just taking what you want for your business, you can benefit them as well.
Yeah, it's probably the most commonly asked question I've ever had on Instagram, because of some of the crazy buyouts and stuff I've had from op shops or thrift stores in town. And people ask me how you develop those relationships. And I think part of it's just being a nice person, but you have to be authentic. Like, you can't just roll in there and be like, hey, I want to go out the back. I think that you just need to work out like who they are and what they value, and just try and add value to their day. Like, I see pain points for the people here because it's a small town, not a lot of people shop there, and they still have these massive targets and budgets that they have to meet. And while, yes, I do go out the back, and yes, I do source the stock before it hits the floor, I still pay a fair price. It's not like I'm negotiating prices with them or anything like that. They set the price, I pay it. And for them, like, my dropping that kind of money there really helps them achieve their targets that they need. So it is very transactionary, I guess is the best way to put it. It's back and forth.
I think you identify more sourcing opportunities when you look at it like that. When you look at, what can I do? I need this, so what can I do to help them to get me this? instead of just looking at it from a, I need this, I want this, I have to sort this, trying to go in and looking at ways to benefit them that will then benefit you is how we've built all of our lasting relationships.
Yeah, but it's the same with everything, right? Like, you can't just walk into a store and be like, I want this. Like, it's like, hi, Dean, how are you today? How's the kids? How's the family? Like, get to know them. They're people. They're not just op shop managers. Like, they have lives. They have stories. Like, they have bad days. Like, you can be a supportive person. Like, you can be their friend. That's the best way to be able to develop any relationship in any way. Like, we might be in a competition, but I still value the friendship above the competition because for me, that's more important.
Aww, we're friends. What tips would you give? What tips would you give someone who is struggling with sourcing, like creative ways to source?
So outside of just going to the thrift stores,
Yes.
you have to think about the journey that clothing takes. So I know in Australia, and I don't know if it's similar overseas, it's the end of financial year here. And it's a lot of the time where, that was a good sound, Hanley. It's a lot of the time of year where companies donate clothes to places as a taxation write-off. So one place in town that often gets a lot of these is the women's shelter. And a lot of them are not fit for purpose. So they end up with these boxes and boxes. We had, before we made the connection, the women's shelter here in town had 3 storage units that they were paying rent on for all the garbage that companies had sent them, which is not fit for their clientele.
Yeah.
So they didn't know what to do with them. So they ended up selling it to us, and we made a very large donation in return for that. So they got the monetary value for it, but we actually got the product back. So there is lots of places like that where things just get sent, but every town's different.
But again, you won't know about these things unless you start talking to people and start asking the questions and building those relationships. Because no one's putting a big billboard out telling you where it is it?
No, like, how would I know that they have 3 storage units full of clothing? Like, I don't go break into storage units. Another really good one is real estate agencies for rentals that just get abandoned.
Oh.
They have to pay. Oh, it happens all the time. They have to pay to get rid of all that stuff. So if you can provide the service of coming in and collecting some of it, depending on your niche, there's free stock to be had.
I love how you think about these things. Like, I've never ever heard anyone give those two as even an option. Like, it's the creative ways you think of it. And I think that's because I think a lot of our best ideas come out of necessity, because we have to make a plan, because you're not in a big city, you are remote. So your brain just sees it so differently to those of us who don't have that same problem, and then we just become content with what's around, and we decide, well, there's nothing good around me, so that's just how it is. Where you've decided, no, I just have to find different ways to find it. And I love that you didn't just adapt a scarcity mindset, and instead you found, like, you've just said something that I would have never in my life thought about. What happened to the stuff when people just leave properties? Like, I just assumed it went to the dump.
Yeah, no, it does. So if you can provide a service that stops it from going to the dump, where the landlord actually has to pay for that to happen, so you offering this service saves them a little bit of money, so they're very likely to call you. I guess I like to pride myself on thinking of creative ways to not become like a victim to circumstance, I guess is the best way to put it.
I love that. Another question we got is 3 key takeaways from the last 3 years, one for each year.
Which year are we starting with?
We'll do 22, 23, 24. We're halfway through 24. If you've not learned anything by now, then you might as well give up. So we'll go 22.
All right, I'm going to do one extra. I think, to be honest, the most important thing that I've learned is that you need to not only get your business right, but you need to get yourself right. So The first tip is that getting your physical health in order is really important. So back during the COVID times, my physical health was not very good. I was diagnosed with a whole bunch of things like an autoimmune disease, genetic condition, blah, blah, blah. And I realize now with time that version of me would not be able to operate a business at this capacity because my mind was very foggy. I couldn't pivot. I wasn't creative in my thoughts. And I just think that overall, I actually would have been a victim to circumstance. I would have been like, it's impossible. So that for me was one of the biggest things that have happened in my life. And I'm really grateful that that's happened. Next, the biggest tip from the next year was working out the mechanics of actually how to sell on eBay was really important. So I said on the tech podcast, I was a member of his group with Chris for a number of years before I was actually implementing the things that they taught us. That's on me. But I thought I knew better. Pro tip, I didn't. So when I deconstructed the business and actually learnt the mechanics of how it operated and did things how they taught, my store exploded really. Then next after that, the next year is working on your mental state. So it's kind of easy to just get caught up in coasting, I guess is the best way to put it, is being comfortable, which is something we've spoken about a lot, haven't we?
Yes.
And sorry.
Last year was a big year for me where I've implemented a lot of stuff and changed a lot of stuff and I really got the right mindset. And then it would have been easy to just be like, oh, good, I've nailed it now. So this year I'll just keep doing that and do the normal thing. And it's very easy to slip into that. And that's part of the reason why I challenged you in the first place, is I wanted to make sure that I don't stay where I am. I wanted to keep the motivation going. And I'm a very competitive person. And the best way to motivate me is through competition. But it would have been so easy to just say, oh, I've cracked it now. I've nailed it. I'm making money. I'm happy now. And I could have just stayed there.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think one of the beautiful blessings is once you get that mechanics down of how the store operates and stuff like that, you are able to do that self-growth, which I think is the thing that really unlocks the biggest growth that you can within the business, but also within yourself. So when I'm doing photos and stuff, I'm often listening to like podcasts and audiobooks and stuff like that, and really just trying to expand my mind and grow as a person and really learn where my personal pain points are and learn where I'm more likely to kind of, I guess, goof off or eliminate any sort of likelihood that I would self-sabotage and work through why I do that and stuff like that. And then this year, I've learned all about how to annoy you. And I find that really valuable.
You're so good at it too.
So great.
Do you listen to anything when you list? Because I used to try to listen to podcasts and stuff and I just can't. I need silence. Like when I do my listings, if I have silence, I can just get it done. As soon as I start listening to things or the kids are around or whatever the case, then I get, and then I hear people are like, they listen to music and I was listening to a podcast while I was listing and how? I can't. My brain can't.
It just takes me longer to list if I do listen to something. So when I'm photographing, I always listen to stuff, but when I'm physically listing, I like to have silence, and if there's people talking and stuff like that, and like getting very distracted and it takes a lot longer. So I find it's more like a long form meditation for me. And on the other side of that, I find that my brain's actually really rested and I can actually go do some other things and be a lot more present and focused afterwards.
The weirdest one I heard is someone said to me they listen to whale noises while they list because they find it very calming.
I'm sure it is. I don't even know what whales sound like.
I thought the same thing. I was like, whales are quite... I remember going to the aquarium as a kid and they had, like, I don't think they had an actual whale there though, but I think there was like a display kind of thing and they had the whale noises. And from what I remember, it was actually really calming. like the echoing and the, I don't know why we're talking about whale noises, but that
We've gone off.
that brought back
Come
such a
back, Hamley.
childhood memory.
Come back.
I miss my whale noises. I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna try whale noises, and then I'll report back.
All right,
But
please do.
I wanted to I wanted to circle back to what you said about your physical health, right? And I
Yeah.
feel like it's something that's not spoken about enough in the reseller community, and
Mm.
that is reseller weight gain is real.
Oh yeah, it
Like,
is. Oh yeah.
this is real. It's a pandemic, people. It's a pandemic.
Yeah.
Because once I started reselling, and about 2.5 months ago, I woke up the one morning and I thought, how did I get here? I put
Mm.
on so much weight just because I'm working in the house and I'm working on my own, and like the snacking is out of control. Like, my desk at home is next to my fridge.
Oh,
Don't
that's
ask me why my
dangerous.
desk is next to my fridge, but it is. I can literally, like, baby bells in arm's reach out of my door. Like, snacking 24/7,
But your
right?
oven's also very close, so you could like go to the fridge and like just spin on your chair and put it in the oven as well.
I mean, I could just cook on wheels.
Correct.
Um,
Sorted.
but it's real. It's a real thing. And I've
It is.
spoken to a bunch of other people as well. And the problem with that is you genuinely become so sluggish. And
Yeah.
so over the last, like, 2 months now, I've lost most of the weight again. And
That's
the
awesome.
difference it makes in your mentality, your stamina, your just everything about my business is so much better when I've taken better care of me physically. And it's not just about weight, it's about being healthier. Like,
Cool.
I actually Michelle in the reselling group set a challenge the one time where we have to, like, do things. I think it's, well, Tech set the challenges, but it's 52 goals a year, and
Mhm.
you'll be better. By the end of the year, you would have reached 52 goals. And one of my goals for one of the week was to drink 2 liters of water a day, which
Yeah.
I never drank water.
Oh,
And do you
really?
know what's crazy? I don't drink water. When I drink 2 liters of water a day, I'm not tired the whole day at all. Who
Funny how.
knew? Mind blown.
Well, if you think about it, we as people are like 80% water, so we're basically just cucumbers. And if you don't drink water, you're just a dehydrated cucumber.
Gherkin.
Yeah, you're a gherkin.
Great tip for today. We're gherkins and we should listen to whale noises. We've gone off the rails, people.
It's true. Like, we're basically complicated cucumbers. I said that once. I background. I used to work in mental health.
Cucumbers. I love that. Humans are complicated cucumbers.
I used to say that there were cucumbers with anxiety in work meetings. Anyway, back on topic. Sorry.
Wait, I have a funny story though. When when we did our podcast with Tech, after the podcast we were all sitting chatting and we told Tech that we wanted to start a podcast. And we were trying to think of a name. But before that I was telling him how I was going to high tea with my sisters. Right after that, and before that, Sam was telling him how there's some kind of deadly weapon, boomerang or something, and the kangaroos, and I don't know. But the podcast started off with the suggestion that our name should be Kangaroos and Cucumber Sandwiches, and I just feel like we've come full circle now.
Yeah,
Now
we
we're
even
back
had a
to, like,
logo.
we're just complicated cucumbers. I love
We
it.
are.
I love that. I love that. But also, cucumbers are great for weight loss. But simple things like drinking 2 liters of water a day, I never realized how massive of an impact that has on
Oh,
your
yeah.
health.
That's one of the most simple things you can do to actually improve your overall well-being, and like having good sleep is the other one, and it's amazing what a good quality night's sleep will do for someone.
Definitely. So our next question is an interesting one. So let's say you wake up in the morning and eBay's gone bust. No
Yep.
eBay. What would you do? Because I feel like there is a bit of a scared mentality in the community that eBay does have the power to just shut us down.
Of course it does.
Yeah. So how do you combat that feeling, and what would you do if you woke up and it was gone?
I guess I'm very lucky in the sense that I do have the markets and I have the music festival side of the business built in, and I also have the storage units and stuff that I do that has the furniture component through Marketplace. So both of those spit off enough money that it pays my bills. So if anything was to go wrong, I could just focus on those. And if I wasn't going to continue reselling, I would have the world's largest garage sale in Alice Springs throughout my storage units. And because I have so many pieces of clothing, I'd have a very nice chunk of cash to be able to open up a new business. And I would open up a service-based business just because I think that with the no cost, low entry that most service businesses offer you, that doesn't really require a specialized skill set, like dog walking, just for example, or like carpet cleaning or something like that. You can rent the machinery for that from like a Bunnings, or like that's like just a warehousey, like a tool place. I don't know what the equivalent is over in the UK or US. And they're just really easy businesses to scale. Like you can teach an employee how to do that really easily, and then you can branch off into different things from those. Like you can offer like dog grooming and dog accessories or house cleaning. And I actually feel like selling on eBay, I kind of limited myself because I didn't really understand how to open or start a business. That was at the time that I was looking to start one.
But I feel like now that we know the mechanics of a business, it's much easier to just apply that to something else. Like I genuinely feel like it'll hurt a lot if I lost eBay. It will, because
Oh,
that's
yeah.
the main part of it. Like it'll hurt, but I
Mhm.
am confident though that I could get something else going. And I think
Yeah.
it's because I've not only learned eBay, I've learned business.
Of course, yeah. The only thing that eBay doesn't teach us is how to market and advertise, because obviously they take care of
Oh,
that. But if you just jumped onto ChatGPT and asked for like basics in marketing, you could work out how to market that on your location to the subgroup of people that you want to market and target, and start there. Like I actually think that
yeah.
part would be, in today's day and age, a little bit easier.
And so I have some of my own questions as well.
Okay.
Um, you're very consistent, like very consistent, but it's the mentality behind your consistency that really like blows my mind, because there are times where you're like talking to me, you're at a festival because you sell clothes at the festivals as well. In the middle of nowhere, you take your Starlink with you, you're in a tent at 5 a.m. in the morning, still there, still getting listings up. Like you are extremely, extremely um consistent, and you will go to great lengths to maintain that consistency. So
Mhm.
for me, I wanted to know, what is the perceived danger to your business of missing a day? Why is it such a big deal to you to miss a day? And also, is it purely business based, or is it more of a you personality type thing?
It's both. So it's definitely my personality. I know that if I stop, it will be hard to start again. So if my whole life, my personality type, I've gotten by on doing the barest of minimums. So if I allow myself to do that again, I will very easily slip back into old habits. And if I miss one day, I will likely miss another one. From a business perspective, I don't think like eBay's just going to be like, you're banished or anything like that. I think it's actually more that like the perceived damage is
Mm.
that I'm going to give myself a pay cut. So on that day, my store doesn't grow, it shrinks, the store value goes down. But I also know that um, most of the bulk of my listings sell in the first 45 days to about day 60. And then that's the peak of the sale curve. And then it definitely goes down. But then, of course, it's renewing every 30 days as well. So if I miss listing 60 in that time, then it doesn't renew, and then it doesn't renew. So I'm actually giving myself essentially 3 pay cuts in that time just from missing one day. And I don't really want to do that.
But I feel the same way. Like I worked out once, I list 35 items a day. And so just for ease of math, let's say I get £15 profit per item. Every day I miss listing, that's 500 and something pounds that I don't get to make that day, and I cheat myself out of. And let's just say I missed 6 or 7 during the year. That's over £3,000 at the end of the year that I've missed the opportunity to make. So it might be that today I don't feel like it. I think the best thing for me today is not to have to do this, and I don't want to do it. I'm still gonna, but when you calculate it and you see how much of a loss it actually is to you, the potential, I think that's what keeps me going a lot of the times. Is that I'd rather just still have the opportunity to make that money. Like if I say to you right now, if you do this, you have the opportunity to earn £6,000 more this year, are you still going to be like, no, I'd rather just do something else? Like that really pushes me to keep going.
I think that you've also sold that number short for yourself. So I don't know how much you turn your store over, but you're also missing on the rebuy opportunity from that item selling during that time as well. So for the 60 that I've put into the store, knowing that the bulk of them will sell in the first 45 days to 60 days, I then don't have that money back to be able to go buy more inventory. And if I turn the store over twice per year, if I miss putting $1,700 worth of stock into my store today, just for example, because that's roughly how much I list per day, I then will sell that somewhere between the 45 to 60. So within the 45 days, I sell half of what I've listed in the 60. A little over, it's about 60%. And then up to the 60 day, about 75 to 80% sold. So I know that the rebuy opportunity is non-existent if I don't list as well.
That's true. I wasn't trying to, I can't math on demand, so I was trying to keep it simple, but
that's my skill.
You're very good with mathing on demand. My math don't math. My math ain't mathing. I'm terrible at maths. And this lie that we got sold in school, like I remember being in school and they're like, why do we have to learn this stuff? And then the teachers are like, you're not going to walk around with a calculator in your pocket. Well, yes, I am. Yes, I am. My teacher's name was Mrs. Ehlers. Mrs. Ehlers, if you ever see this, I have a calculator in my pocket. I'm just thinking. This is another one I had, because this is something that I used to struggle with, and this is where I find the most value in the Reseller Greatness group we're in, is accountability. Because before the time, it's so funny because I'm so much more prone to let myself down than let someone else down, which just blows my mind. But what holds you accountable when you only have yourself to answer to? We often don't put enough weight behind our own goals to keep us working on them. And that I wrote as a self-reflection of me.
For me, the best thing I did to keep myself accountable was to make the goal ultimately about not just me. So for pretty much my whole life, I've allowed myself to coast. And when I realized I was coasting in eBay and not putting in my best efforts, and I knew that going into eBay full-time post-pandemic was going to be a risk, because if anything like that happened again, then we're going to drop to one wage in the house again. And if it's just eBay, that's going to be hard. So I made the goal outside of myself and knew that I needed to be able to have eBay at least at the value of 2 incomes, just to be able to protect both of us. And then when I got to that goal, I just coasted again. So I made this really grand and elaborate goal that I can protect anyone in the family at any given time. We can just pack up everything, put it in a storage unit, travel for a year if that's what we want to do. Like, I made the goals just so large that every day that I'm like, I don't really want to, I think about the fact that, my parents are getting older and stuff like that. Like, I want to be able to protect people rather than just my own interests.
I also feel that, like, realizing your own full potential is a very big responsibility. Like, the minute I realized what I was capable of, it became my responsibility to now live up to that and not go back. Because I too was very prone to just doing enough to make it look like I'm hardworking. And then I actually started working hard and I actually saw like what I am capable of. And now there's no going back for me. Like that responsibility to maintain this now is on me.
It's really interesting that you say that, because I believe that a lot of the limitations that we experience, that we actually put on ourselves. So I could very easily just say that I can't list more than 10 items a day because I live in a small town with only 22,000 people and I can't source any more items that are profitable here because I choose not to put in the time, the effort, and etc. to be able to research, to be able to gain that knowledge. But when I chose to break down mentally, that's what I mean about the one tip from one of the years was working on the mindset. When I chose to break down where all those self-limiting beliefs came from, everything just got a lot easier.
I think it's easy to fall into what we surround ourselves with as well. And for me, particularly when I started doing eBay, I was in a lot of the eBay Facebook groups. I don't know if you've been in them, they're delightful. And it's so easy to then fall into that kind of mindset about it. But in the same way, it's so easy to have a go-get positive mindset when you're surrounded by those type of people, and being in constant conversation with you, being in conversation with people in our group, having tech, and like being in conversation with people that are above me, achieving more than me, constantly go-getting like you, the way you think of solutions to problems I didn't even know existed yet. That just elevates me so much because it doesn't allow me to backtrack.
Of course. But you are also what you can consume as well. So I switched out consuming Netflix for more positive things. Like when I first went full time, I was actually watching Amazon Prime on the computer in the office while I was photographing. And I just swapped that for learning about investing and learning about like the ego and what impact that plays in decision making and stuff like that, to be able to know if I'm being clouded in my own judgment by myself and what I want from an ego standpoint versus what's actually best for the business and what's best for the direction of my future, those sorts of things. So I think that, yes, definitely the people that are around you are really important, but it's also the stuff that you're consuming and what you're telling yourself.
I saw, I think it was a speaker I was watching. I think someone might have mentioned this to me, but the question was, what's your homepage? When you wake up in the morning, what's your mental homepage look like? What is on
That's
there?
interesting.
I know. So when you open your eyes, what's your homepage? What do you do first? What do you see first? What do you think of first? Do you grab your phone first? Because that's how you start your life that day, isn't it? And then when I started looking at it like that, like, do I want mine to be full of TikTok reels and Netflix and wanting what other people have, or do I want it to be affirmations and positivity? And so it's very important that we think about what we put into ourselves. Why are you laughing?
The reason why I was laughing was because typically when I wake up in the morning and I look at my phone, there's like half a dozen messages from you ranting about something.
But that's the time difference.
Yeah, it is the time difference. But it just made me laugh.
Homepage?
No, you're not my homepage. It just made me laugh that that's one of the first things I see in the morning is like 6 messages from you.
That's true. Probably going off about something.
Yeah, typically. The injustices of Henley's life.
It is, though. So many injustices.
So many.
But
The best
it's
one was when you
definitely...
looked up.
Now I'm going to be careful with it. I'm going to make sure that the last message I send before I go to sleep is a positive one.
I love it.
So that you wake up and you can read all my ranting and then go, oh, that's nice.
That sounds great. I love that.
But I didn't think people pay enough attention to what it is we are consuming. And to me, that's made a big difference. I made a personal choice to stop listening to certain types of music in January, and I haven't since. And I always just assumed that life naturally is an emotional roller coaster. It's not. It's
not,
really
no.
like I am a lot less up and down in my emotions when I cut out certain music, because we don't realize the effect that has on us and our emotions when we listen to music. So making these small changes, if you find yourself stuck in certain ruts, looking at what it is you're consuming can make a big difference in your life.
So just one example is if you're consuming drama-filled TV shows, it becomes quite normal. So like people yelling, bickering, fighting. Like just for an example, Married at First Sight. Terrible TV show, in my opinion. But there's a lot of drama. It's probably all staged, but everyone's fighting, etc. If you just consume stuff like that consistently, it sets kind of a normality in your mind of what social norms are. So you may either scan for that, you may actually try to seek that in your personal life because it's almost like it's a normal standard.
Yeah. And I think since I've actually started paying attention to that, I've found life a lot easier as well.
Totally.
Business is easier because I'm actually learning more all the time.
Yeah.
Life in general is easier. Emotionally, it's easier. So to close us out, Sam's been very gracious and answered all our questions. But to close us out, what is the goal? I know this year the goal is to lose to May, and you're doing very well with that. But what is the goal beyond that?
My goal right now is to do like 120 listings tomorrow just to annoy you for the rest of the year. Do you mean
why
on eBay or?
Yeah, well, why are you pushing this hard on eBay? What's the motivation behind it? Because to be honest, I'm doing 35 a day, right?
Mhm.
And currently 35 a day is a very comfortable place to be. And so why push yourself beyond that? What is
Yeah.
the goal that's driving you to go beyond that?
Freedom. To put it in one word, it's just freedom. So I feel like the greatest level of freedom is to want nothing and to have nothing be able to be taken away from you. So during COVID, everything was kind of taken away from us. Like Lauren couldn't work. I was restricted in the work that I could do just because we weren't allowed to travel. And I realized that not everything is infinite. Like things can be taken away. So I would like to get to a point where assets provide for not just me, but for Lauren, the extended family. That to me is freedom. I don't think that I could ever permanently stop working. I would have to tinker at something. That's just how my brain is. I like to learn and I like to teach. And I just want the ability to just be free and secure.
Yeah. So is there a point at which you will stop?
eBay?
Yes, in general,
Yeah.
the hustle in general.
Yeah, well, I mean, I actually quite like the work part. Like I would stop eBay. I just would like to have a property portfolio that kicks off enough money that. So the goal would be $3 million a year free cash flow. It's just a number that's so large that for me, I'm not going to stop, basically. If I don't hit that number by X date, that's totally okay. If I hit part of the way there, amazing. Because those assets and stuff like that will continue to grow. But I would like to like collect businesses on the way and invest in other things, not just real estate. And the reason being is that I can just be comfortable, but I can also learn about those businesses as well.
That 3 million cash flow a year that's a big
Ridiculous, right?
goal.
But if I
That's a
hit
lot of comfort.
300,000, like 300,000 is like not the goal, it's substantially less than the goal, but that's still beyond comfortable, right?
Hey, if you
Yeah,
aim for 3 million and you land at like a million, half a million, like I'm still very happy with that.
correct. So that's why I made the goal so large. Because at $3 million a year, no one in the family needs to work, really.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like
So
that.
if it's just big enough, then I will wake up every day. But when you start moving in a way that you are like, I'm chasing down that, other people notice as well and they want to help. And
Yeah.
that's the bit I like. Like, it's one thing to say to your partner, like, hey, I want to make this the goal, and then go sit on the couch for 5 hours a day and not actually act and operate in that manner. But when they can see proof of concept and see, like, okay, you're putting this effort in, this is the result, then they get on board as well and they actively help. And then their family see it as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then they come on board. But even just people around us as well, like friends and stuff like that, they provide us clothes, like they're understanding, they don't mind if I use my phone at the table. Like if I was just at dinner with someone and was responding to eBay messages and stuff like that, it would get annoying. But when they can see that it's working and I enjoy it as well, they're more understanding.
The goal has to be big enough to make you move, though. And one thing I've always struggled with is that I lack long-term vision. It's just, I guess, a personality trait. So I would very easily do less today because it doesn't affect me today, and not realize the consequences it will have later on, because I only live for today. And that's something I've had to change. And so my goal and the way I view life now is that I don't live for today, I live for tomorrow. So what I do today, I have to do everything I can today to make tomorrow easier for me. And when you do that, I tend to move a lot more than I did when I was just trying to do what makes me happy today.
It's interesting that you say that you used to lack long-term vision, because I was the exact same. It's only within the last 18 months or so that I've actually realized that I can dream bigger.
Yes.
And I think that that's really from just working on my mentality.
Yes.
Just about everything in life, not just business. Like, I can dream more for myself as a person, like on a personal level and on the professional level and on the creative level, because I don't know why, but I guess it's the work that I've done on self that's allowed me to do that.
Well, thank you for sharing your story with us. Everyone's been very keen to hear from you. And we thank all our complicated cucumbers for listening, hanging out with us. If you have any more questions, just put them in the chat. Sam's always there answering comments anyway. So if you have any questions, if you have any suggestions, or you have anything you do want to hear about, also just let us know. We appreciate everyone. Genuinely, we really enjoy having these chats. And that's why we started to do it, because we enjoy it. But I'm also very appreciative that other people enjoy listening to us having these chats. So
yeah, it blows my mind that anyone wants to listen to anything that I have to say. Like, I really appreciate it.
Maybe they don't. Maybe we're just... That's okay too.
Maybe it's
whale
just you.
noises and complicated cucumbers. That's the value we added to your day today.
I'm never going to live that down, am I?
No, that is amazing. I love that. I love that we're all just complicated cucumbers. But thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.